Hey everyone, and welcome to the Gun Guy channel. Blackjack Mark here, and this week we are going to talk about one of my all-time favorite historic guns. It was used in World War II. It was designed by John Browning. Everyone's thinking the 1911, right? Nope. It was chambered in 9mm and used by both the Allies and the Axis. It is Browning's High Power. We'll tell you about this gun right now. Hey everyone. So one of my favorite parts about buying these old historic guns is the history that goes along with them, because you feel like you actually have a piece of history in your hand. So what I'd like to do before we get to the unboxing today is actually discuss the background of the high power gun. Round about 1921, the French government contacted John Browning, and they asked him to design a 9mm pistol that had 10 rounds plus one. They also wanted a magazine disconnect and a few other things. He was working with FN, Fabrique Nationale, National Factory, which is a Belgian gun-making company. Sorry about the French pronunciation. Apologies to my French high school teacher. 4 years didn't help. They had the first version of this sometime around 1923, 1924, and they even experimented with the striker fire for a bit. But the French government wanted a hammer fire. Unfortunately, Browning passed away in 1926, so it was before the gun was finished. Part of the reason that the design was taking so long was prior to starting on designing the high power, Browning had sold all of his patents to Colt on the 1911. So he was prohibited from using any of the patent designs in this gun. Enter a Belgian gun designer who had several guns under his belt already, and he was working for FN. And his name, and I'm going to mess this up as well, was Saive, and he took over where Browning left off. So they kind of finished the gun together. The part that Saive had going for him was by the time he got to the designs, the patents had expired. So he could incorporate some of the designs into this gun, which is kind of why there are some similarities between this and the 1911. However, the gun was finished right around 1934, on the eve of World War II. By 1935, when it was ready to go into production, the French government passed. They said they didn't want it. The Belgian government, on the other hand, said they liked it, and they started using it for their national police and military. Enter World War II. Germany invaded and conquered Belgium. And they also, as part of that, took over the FN factory. So this gun, which was originally intended to be used as an Allied gun, then became an Axis gun. It was used by SS officers and German paratroopers and some of their special forces as their sidearms.
Ooh, that's a bingo.
Fortunately for the Allies, some spies had actually managed to sneak the plans out of the FN factory, got them into the UK. The UK sent the plans to Canada, and they manufactured the Allied version of this gun. Believe it or not, obviously well before Justin Trudeau, Canada was manufacturing guns for everyone. What makes this gun kind of unique is that it was literally used by Allies and Axis in World War II. And since then, it's actually been used in over 96 countries. So this specific gun is the most popular or most widely used 9mm gun in the last century. So the original gun had a magazine disconnect because that was what was required, had a manual safety, and much like the 1911, it was to be carried cocked and locked because it was a single action only. It held 13 rounds at that time, which is how it got the name high power, because compared to the other guns of that era, it had more power and higher capacity. Thus, the high power was created.
Yay!
FN stopped manufacturing the gun in 2018. And much to the chagrin of some history buffs who loved it, a couple of other manufacturers came into the market. Springfield with the SA-35, and obviously the 35 meaning 1935 when it came into production. Gerson They also made, I believe it was the P-35, which is their version of it. And then FN came back into the market 2021 with the FN high power. The reason that I got this particular Springfield model is the gun intrigued me, but I hadn't really ever shot high powers before. And the FN was on the higher end of the price scale. Those guns are listing 13,000 would be way too much. 1,300. The Springfield comes in at $799 retail, and the Garçon is somewhere around 600, 598, right in that range. I found this particular gun on sale, got it under 600, and snapped it up. So those are really the modern high powers that are in the market. So let's go to the unboxing now and take a look at what we got. All right, let's take a look at what we got from Springfield Armory. Comes in this beautiful cardboard box, fit for recycling, I don't know. It comes with a bag, one 15-round magazine with a Springfield Armory logo, and the gun itself. We get our manual, I believe. Oh, nope, I take that back. It's just a promotional piece. The obligatory gun safety notice and our lock. So you can download the manual online if you go to Springfield, and it is pretty helpful. Also tells you like what the specific parts of the gun are, as well as what kind of hold it is. So this is a traditional center hold gun, as opposed to combat or a 6. So this is the meat and potatoes of what you get. The gun itself, by the way, is just amazing. It's a solid steel gun. It's forged, not cast, and the barrel is also forged as opposed to drilled. For the price point, it's really pretty impressive. The gun comes in at just a hair under 2 pounds, making it really nice to shoot 9mm. Not much recoil at all on this particular gun. The barrel of the gun is 4.7 inches. The trigger, according to the manual, comes in at right about 5.4, 5.5 pounds. The overall length of the gun is 7.8, with a height of 5.6 and a width of 1.27. Yes, I am reading that off a chart. I don't know that by heart. So other than that, it really does look a lot like the original high powers. That's also one of the reasons I went with the Springfield, outside of just the price benefits. Also, there were, for those of you who are unfamiliar with high powers as I was when we started, there are some general, I guess, complaints about the original high powers. And Springfield seems to have gone out of their way to try and fix those. So one of them is the magazine disconnect. And as you can tell, this gun has been cleared and checked, and there's no 9mm in the building. But as you can see, with the hammer back, this is a single action only. There is no magazine disconnect because the magazine's sitting right over here. People seem to like that. Also, one of the bigger complaints that I read from people online was the safety. So the original safety on the high power was really small, and I did look at them. This one, as you can tell, kind of rests really nicely. It's super easy to switch off. So from this position, it's off, you can fire. So they seem to have fixed that problem as well. One of the other things that the Springfield has updated and made better, in my opinion, are the sights. So the sights on the original high powers were the very tiny, like the mil spec 1911s. Very, very difficult for those of us with aging eyes to get a good sight picture on. I like the U on the back of this with the target sight and the white dot up front. Also, and this was perhaps one of the main reasons that I went with this over the EEA, was most of the reviewers that I had heard online or read about said that there was hammer bite with the EA, and that was perhaps an homage to high power because most of the original high powers gave everyone hammer bite. The Springfield actually redesigned this, so if you can see when the hammer is cocked back, even with a very high grip, it's not getting anywhere near my precious hands because I don't like hammer bite. Outside of shooting guns for defense, one of the reasons at least I like to shoot guns is because I enjoy it. I don't enjoy having my flesh ripped off my hand, so guns that do give me hammer bite or slide bite as a rule, I will try to avoid. This gun I did shoot once already. I'm happy to say that my hand is alive and well and still hanging in there. In regard to the ergonomics of the gun, it just feels like it's made for your hand. It's a very comfortable gun. It racks just really easy, and it just feels good. So we're gonna put the magazine in just because, and we're gonna see what we get when we test the trigger. 5.7. 5.6. So the gun comes in a little heavier than what the specs say, but on a couple of the tries it also came in lighter, so it's in that ballpark. All in all, the trigger is great. One of the things that you see is there's very little take up, but there is almost no creep on this gun. So if you look, we're at that wall and it breaks. So almost no creep. We'll do that one more time. So again, we're at the wall, no creep. So the trigger on this gun is just exceptional. As are the grips. These are actual wooden grips. If you do have older high powers or you want to make the gun look a little more authentic or historic rather, any high power guns from the originals will fit on this frame perfectly. So you can do that. All right, so we're going to start the field strip. What we will do is make sure the magazine is out and clear. Check, and as you can see, hopefully, there's nothing in the chamber. Look down, we are good. On this particular gun, it's a super easy way to disassemble it. Hammer is back. You take, and there are two notches, and you simply use the second notch with the safety. You'll see that this notch here lines up with the slide release. You go onto this side, push it out, and it moves out. Oops. This is a little easier to do without rubber gloves on. There we go. It just comes out like that. Take it back, slide it forward, and we are good. Take this spring, which is under a lot of tension, like that, and bring it out. So put that there, and the barrel slides forward and comes out. So as you can see, a little bit of dirt there. I think I probably put about 50 rounds through this gun. So what we'll do is we start with some good bore cleaner. And we are going to use a patch. Sometimes, I use a Q-tip, one of the Q-tips if I want to get the solvents on the gun, but a patch is a little bit easier and gets a little more solvent where it should. Take that, and we're going to just start with getting some of this in the barrel. And on the feed ramp and on the exterior, just going to let it sit and do its job. Okay, gonna take the retaining pin, go in on the slide. You can see it has a lot of carbon buildup. We'll go through here. Now, for those of you who notice, there's a difference on the front end from this in a 1911, even though, you know, Browning, same design. So, no bushing on this particular gun. This gun does have the free-floating barrel. Now, I'm going to take and be careful. We don't want any solvent getting into where the firing pin's at, so we're going to turn it this way. Use your thumb and just try and clean that. And that's one of the areas that I do like to use a Q-tip for. Just get it a little bit. Some solvent on there. Clean it. The extractor is right here, so we also want to make sure we get that area. And we can use this to get into the rails as well. And you can see it's got quite a bit going. So we're gonna put a little more solvent in those little nooks and crannies. I know some people like to use some tools. I quite frankly prefer this. I find it easier. So we're going to let that work for a bit. We're going to get another patch. And work the inside of this. And you can see it's still pretty bad, pretty dirty. So I'm kind of surprised at how dirty this is, considering the amount of firing that it's had. Wet another patch, and go here, get into that. Make sure we're clear there. Take another Q-tip, give it a soak, get in the magazine well, and right around there. All right. What I like to do now is I like to give everything a good scrub. We'll go back and we'll start with the barrel. And go on the feeder ramp a bit. Let's get the outside of the barrel. All right, that's looking okay. Get the slide. Try and get in here as best we can. Scrub here too. Now we did go through the barrel with the patch, so take a brush and we'll go through. You know, people say that when you use one of these tools, you should always go with the way that the bullet travels to keep the integrity of the barrel intact. I don't particularly know if that's true. This is cold forged steel. This is brass. Brass is going to lose every time, but it could scratch a little bit, so we're going to go through. If you wanted, some people will take this off and pull it back through. I am too lazy to do that, so I am just going to pull it back through like that. Do that once or twice. And now what we're going to do is grab another patch, a clean patch, and we're going to run it through there and see what we got. And we still got a lot of powder in there, right? So we're going to take another one. Oop, maybe we aren't. And go through it again. This is one of the reasons I really have started using more bore snakes for all my guns, not just my rifles. I think that they give us a better clean. All right. But it's getting there. We're going to take another patch. And just because it is so dirty in there, I want to get a little more solvent in there, try and break down what's ever in there. So we're going to do this one more time. And hopefully get all the carbon and build up out of there. And so as to not waste it, we'll go ahead and use this here too. In my opinion, well, with rare exception, you can't really use too much solvent. It'll evaporate, so it shouldn't hurt any of the parts. All right, let's get that in. See if we get a cleaner patch this time. There we go. All right. We'll do one more for good measure. Then we're going to move on. Oop. All right. Coming out pretty clean. You're going to take, and I don't know if we did this or not, so let's get a little solvent back on this piece here. And on our spring. All right. Clean this up. Oop. And clean that. Apparently be careful, because that spring's pretty sharp at the end, went right through there. All right, got that clean. Take this, see if we're got most of the carbon out of there. Looks like it's a little bit dirty in there, but just try and clean that. I don't know if you guys can see, we're gonna clean the surface right there and around right around the firing pin and the extractor, and that actually looks pretty good right now. And I do like to use a clean patch when I'm going over these areas to wipe them down, just because it will let me see how much of the carbon buildup is still there, and if I have to go back and hit it again. All right, so we're going to take these, wipe down the parts real quick. And it is looking pretty good. All right. Now, again, this gun is pretty brand spanking new. It had only been fired once, and we'll fire it again and do a range test. So we're going to take a little bit of lubricant, and we will put it on any of the areas that are showing some wear. So specifically, we're going to lubricate the slide, the rails. We can do a quick coat on the spring and the guide rod. And then if you want, and you're not planning on shooting it soon, you can put a little bit of oil in the actual barrel, and it helps preserve it. We're going to shoot this gun within the next day or so, so I don't want to do that because I find that the oil just gums it up a little bit more and makes it a little harder to clean. So if I know I'm going to shoot the gun right away, I'll avoid oiling the barrel. The way that I like to do the oil, you know, and some people just put the drops right on. I prefer using these, getting some lubricant on them, and we'll go on the rail here, back here, and here. Okay, get a little more oil. And again, you don't want to use a ton of oil. That's one of the reasons that I like this method. I think it puts just enough. So we go on the inside rail here. If you want, this area comes in contact, you could put a quick coat on it. And then what we're going to do with the spring, put just a drop or two, and go ahead and cycle the spring through this. All right. Now we are ready to start reassembling things. The spring and the guide rod will fit back in, but you want to make sure that this flat portion is down, and I'll show you that as soon as we get there. So we slide the barrel back in. We now put the spring in, and you kind of have to be careful. If you remember, it shot out on us before, and it looks like it's trying to do it again. All right, so that one's better than I had hoped for on my first try. But as you can see, the flat end of this needs to go down. So you want to make sure that with that piece, you have it facing the right direction. Then the slide goes right back. Okay. We're going to take it back to our position, put the slide, the safety on the second notch. This should, in theory, drop right in there. We can release the slide, and voila. It should fire just like that. And it's working fine. So now the other thing that we can do after we get these gloves off, because it looks like the gun's not quite as pretty as it was when we started. So we can take a drop or two, put it on that side, and basically just give the exterior of the gun a really nice buffing. And that helps preserve it. You know, it is an all steel gun, so we want to make sure it doesn't rust. And again, doesn't need very much. So just enough to make it look pristine again. So there we go. Now, one last thing before we go with this And this was something John, who's producing this, pointed out. There is a hole right here in the slide, and it is on both sides, and it seems to be a common feature in all high powers. I checked the high power or the Springfield manual on this particular gun. It does not mention that there is any purpose for that hole. So if you know what that hole is for, leave something in the comments for us. Thanks much. Hope you enjoyed it and you got something out of it. If you like it, please, if you like the video, please like our channel, like the video, and subscribe to us, and tell some friends about it. Thank you much. See you next time.